Hello, everybody, and welcome back to You Can't Win. This is Tom here, and I'm joined by Don as usual. And today we have returning guest Harvey back, and we're just going to be checking in with him, seeing how things are going. Last time we talked to him, he shared a bunch of stories about serving papers that episode's become like a fan favorite. A lot of people have said they enjoyed it and that they are looking forward to this guest appearance. So it should be a fun episode. Let's just see how Harvey's doing. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, what's up? I've been serving papers pretty much nonstop during COVID-19, which has been a very strange thing to go through because it's I've gotten to like basically be outside and out and about the whole time while Washington D.C. like went through like a full like shut down to like a partway one to kind of where it's at now. So it's been very strange because initially I was mostly serving businesses and of course all of those closed down. So I ended up spending a few months just like working through our backlog of casework, which ended up being like going to a place and finding out it's been closed down for good, and then having to like mark that and then go on. So it's like been like very strange to see things like kind of like close down in real time,
Mm-hmm.
and like be out with the mask and stuff. Now I'm focusing again kind of what I did in the old days, which is mainly serving people at home, which is neat, because that's like kind of more fun,
Yeah.
because you get to trick people more. Like usually when you show up to like a place of work, you can just say it's like, hey, I have a summons, and then there's like someone there whose like job it is to like kind of take that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas at like home we have to do all the tricks and stuff. So it's like been nice to kind of go back to the old grind.
Sure.
Couple of funny stories. There was I got one job. There's a Republican club located like right next to one of the congressional buildings on Capitol Hill, and there was a Joint Chief of Staff who was accused of some kind of like groping or like sexual misconduct thing, and they were trying to sue him, and he was trying to dodge the paper, and so they found out that he was supposed to give like a talk at a breakfast thing for all of these GOP blood drinking weirdos at like seven
Yeah.
at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and so they sent me out to serve him as he got there, and so I just kind of went and I parked my car near the place and I waited. I was like, well, I think what's going to happen is that an important looking SUV is going to pull up, and that's going to be the one that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few of those types of cars pulled up, and it was like, oh, there's a senator. Oh, there's that guy. Oh, Lindsey Graham. Hey man, what's up? But then eventually his pulled up, and I don't know what his security staff were up to, because for whatever reason they just let me get out of my car and like blow right by them and like serve him face to face.
Mm-hmm.
And his security got so mad at me that they got the police there right away, and I had to stay for like I think an hour and a half, um, explaining what I was doing and like why I served him with papers. And I'm like, I'm not sure why they had me serve him. It's just a thing that had to happen. Um, but then I like called my boss, and he got mad at me because like, well, how long did you wait? And I was like, well, I just went back to my car. It's like, well, no, you should have had your car ready to run, and you should have peeled away as soon as you served him, so you didn't have to deal with the police. And I was like, oh, okay, well, lesson learned, I guess. Um,
Is so that confuses me because I thought like isn't this aren't the police and you like why would they be mad at you for
the
sort of
police,
being yeah
the police weren't mad at me.
okay
It was these kind of like bigwig guys who were like, oh my god, I can't believe that this guy just blew through our many layers.
Right.
Yeah.
to like serve this guy. And it's like, no, I mean, I just walked up to him. He was right there, and they're like,
Yeah.
because he had been tried to serve, because someone had tried to serve him so many times before, the police had already been alerted to someone trying to stalk him. And so
Oh,
they thought that I was the guy who was trying to stalk him. And it's like, no, this is the first time I've seen him.
yeah.
But that's just the way things go. Um, Thankfully or not so thankfully, mostly it's just serving normal folks now. Even during a pandemic, people are still getting divorced. People are still being sued. All of that good stuff. There was this guy last weekend. When I pulled up to his house, he was out in the driveway with his kid, and I just went up and said, "Hey, it's you, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, I have to serve you the papers." And he was like, "I'm not going to take those." So I dropped them at his feet, and he got really mad about that. So he like followed me back to my car and like tried to fight me. And
Oh,
I was like, "Hey, man, look, I mean, if like you like touch me, I am going to have to call the cops. I don't want to do that because they're a pain in the ass, but like you will go to jail, blah blah blah."
mm-hmm.
Um, that's just kind of what you have to tell people. And then so I like get in my car and I'm trying to pull away. He goes to his car and he gets like this big wrench,
Oh
and
boy.
he like runs after like me and like starts to try to like hit me and like my car with the wrench as I'm trying to leave. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that was like pretty wild. So I mean, and I usually don't do this at all, but I like got out of the car and I cursed him out for like 2 minutes in a row, which was like, it's like not what you're supposed to do, but if you try to hit me with a wrench, I think I have the right to let a few f bombs fly
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Yeah.
you in front of your kid and your wife and your neighbors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's mostly what's been going on. The other thing that's weird about work right now is that and like this is a weird thing about the way the like workday works, is that whenever your boss says that you're basically able to pick the hours that you work, that means that you end up like working way more and being way more exhausted than you would be
Hmm.
if you just worked a straight 9 to 5. So like the way things work for me right now is I usually go out around like 4:30, and then I go to like about 9 o'clock and like try to serve people during that time when they're home from work. And then the next morning, I take what's left over and I go out at like 7, and I go from like 7 to 10 a.m. and I try to serve them then. But then this leaves this like weird time in the middle of the day between like 10 a.m. and like 4 p.m. where I'm not like off work yet, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like technically off work, but I'm like still thinking about how I have to go back to work. And so I've been trying to find ways to like fill that with a reductive thing to do, like, oh, maybe I can read a book, maybe I can clean the apartment or do chores. But mostly I just get home and sleep
Mm-hmm.
un, until I have to go back to work. So
Yeah, siesta.
yeah, I mean, I think I need to hit up people who like work at bars and stuff like that, who like never know when they're going to go to work, and ask them. It's like, hey, what do you do when you think you're going to have to go back to work, but you're not sure and you can't chill out? Like, how do you do that, or
Yeah.
whatever? So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
gonna
that I
try
could
to
never
figure that out.
relax. Like, if I am not sure if I have like a solid hour or two or whatever to myself, then I can't. I'm just like ready to go. Like I can't settle in
Oh,
and relax. You know?
oh yeah, I mean, it's like I think I'm the same way, and so, it just ends up feeling I'm at work from when I wake up till when I get back from like the last shift of the day,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and then when I get back at 9, it's like, okay, cool, now this is the time for me, so I want to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching, shit on TV or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
because this is my time now.
Right. Yeah, I think the idea of like doing something productive with during that time is a good idea because because you're still in that like I'm on the clock mentality, it's sort of like you can kind of work in stuff from your personal life that is sort of like a work thing, like a chore, that kind of thing that's feels kind of like work you have to do that when you're still like in the job mode, and then it's not it's not eating into your like relaxation time.
Yeah, I mean, I have been really good about sleeping and cooking meals and taking out the trash and stuff, and just like kind of trying to keep the place clean. So I think that might be the best I can do. But like, I think what I have in mind is like, oh, what if I pursued a hobby during this time?
Yeah,
it's like, no way, that's just not going to work at all.
Yeah, I mean, you could start small,
Yeah, maybe do like an hour or half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did make a promise to my wife and some friends that currently the foreclosures and evictions where we live are like basically shut down right now. They can't file new ones, so we don't have to serve those. And I told myself and I told her that when they start those again, whether or not I have a new job, I think I'm going to quit just because I think it would feel wrong to me to sort of like have to go around and tell people that they're kicked out of their homes because they weren't able to work and like keep up with stuff when the government overreach told them that they can't go to work because of the because of the fake bug that was in the air or whatever. So I don't know.
Yeah. Is it possible you could just lose those papers? Does that help anything?
Oh man, I would get both fired and sued.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is like the worst thing that can happen. Because like being like fired is one thing, but like being like fired and sued, that's like 2 for 1. Because not only do you lose your job, but you now have to pay money because you lost your job.
Yeah. Your new job is getting sued. Yeah, that's not
right. And it's like, shit. But I mean, to be fair, if like someone tried to serve me, I feel pretty confident that I'd be able to dodge it for a few years.
Sure, you know all the ins and outs.
Maybe like move to a different state and not put my name on the bills.
How has Wuhan changed your like job in terms of? I was thinking that people would be afraid, or not afraid, but like they would use COVID as some sort of excuse for you not getting close to them, or like or something around
start
that, like
coughing and sneezing and stuff.
Or like
they do, but that doesn't stop me because what I do is I just wear like gloves and like the full like face shield and stuff.
Sure.
And then I'll like go up to their door and I'll knock, and I'll like walk back like 15 feet and like yell at them from the sidewalk.
Okay. So, are you like, not too worried yourself about it or anything? Or like it's not.
I'm honestly shocked that I haven't either gotten it or like gotten it and been a super spreader.
Yeah.
Like that's like definitely been a thing that's in the back of my mind, and it's and it. I mean, like my job to me is like already kind of a anachronistic and insane thing that we do.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it's still going on right now is just like, this like has to be a joke. That like people still have to go through this. But I mean, like people will like put up signs on their door and be like, "Do not knock. I have COVID."
Yeah.
Don't wake the COVID victim.
Right. Which is like, okay, sure. Man, there was one guy I served a couple of weeks ago who he had gone to a gun range and like shot up a human shaped, like thing, and then he like taped that to the front of his door. And,
wow.
and I got there and saw that. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to be really polite, I think.
Wow.
This is, but it wound up being fine. How are things for y'all? I know that Tom has really liked the lockdown, right?
I love it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
it's
just,
like,
I get to wear my pajamas all day. It's awesome.
yeah, I mean, I've like transitioned to wearing sweatpants full time for like a
Yeah.
few months now, and it's
Yeah.
just I've like trying to wear jeans again, and it's like, nah, I just don't see the point in this.
Every once in a while when I've had to wear pants like that, it just feels completely insane. Like, why did we bother with this? This is crazy. Like, it's not comfortable. It's not as flexible and stuff. You can't just, I don't know. It's so bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, it's like weird to say, but like my wife and I have like really thrived during this time because we're like, oh, we get to spend all this time together again,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah,
Hmm.
know?
yeah.
And if like someone wants to hang out and we don't want to hang out, then we can just be like, oh, sorry, we're worried about COVID, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, my life is 99% the same as it was beforehand anyway. So it's not like, the difference is that like I had planned like a trip to see Tom and stuff, and I was going to try to go more places this year and stuff. And now I just have a reason not to. So,
Yeah,
and the border's closed. So that's a good
right.
basic. And, so otherwise, I mean, I probably would have been doing basically the
Yeah.
same anyway. So it doesn't really, always feel bad when people are like, you know, talking about all this very complex things they've had to do to change or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know, just hanging out, same old.
Right.
So yeah.
Have you guys have friends get like mad at you
No.
because
No.
you don't because you don't want to hang out? No. Oh, okay.
Oh, no, no, no. I was just saying, do you have friends? No.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, I have had to, unfortunately, like the thing Don was talking about, like we had to cancel on him visiting. Leo was going to be in the area, and I had to cancel on that too. So there's been some
Yeah.
situations like that's been kind of a bummer. But I don't know. Besides, I think a lot of the people, I mean, to be honest, I have never been very social. Like even with the friends that I have here in the city, like it takes a lot to kind of get me off my butt and to go anywhere. So
That's shocking. Wow.
yeah. And I think a lot of the, other people are now kind of like more on that level. They're kind of like not trying to do stuff as much. So it's just kind of taken a lot of pressure off me to ever leave the house. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It hasn't really been a big issue. When we have hung out with people, it's been kind of like out of doors. We tried to arrange things like that. And now it's getting colder. So that's going to be even, less of a thing. We were just talking about like Thanksgiving.
Shut down.
Yeah, totally. Thanksgiving and Christmas is going to be weird. We're not really sure what that's going to look like. I think it's going to be a little bit of a negotiation process to get everyone to agree to some sort of situation that's like safe, but also, kind of satisfies everyone's need for like a holiday experience,
Oh yeah, my parents have been on the phone with me like the whole time, and for them, they live down in South Carolina, and so like COVID for them lasted for like a month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where they're like, oh, we'll wear the mask. This is cute. All right, we're done.
yeah.
And but like up where I live, it's still like pretty locked down, and so they've been trying to call, like, hey, when do you want to come hang out again? And I'm like, man, I'm not sure that anyone up here would be cool with that if like you guys came up. I mean, you can, I don't care, but maybe you guys should be pretty careful since you're old, but
Yeah.
they just don't really feel any sense of like threat from it yet. Like halfway through COVID, they went up and picked up my grandma and like brought her to like stay with them, which was I guess good, so she just wouldn't be by herself. But then like I like asked them what they were up to, and it's like, oh yeah, we went and got our nails done, and we went shopping, and I was like, wait, what? This
Oh
is
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Like they just did not care at all. And then they said, well, South Carolina isn't the same place as Washington D.C. I'm like, well, that's technically true. Yeah, so okay, you win.
Yeah.
That's a great argument, Mom. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. So,
No.
yeah. I mean the numbers aren't good there, I assume. Either way, but yeah.
No,
don't know.
but I mean, I think it has had an impact on them in that I went from being like my mom like banned me from ever discussing politics with them when I was like I think 15 or 16.
Oh, nice.
And
Good.
yeah, yeah, which like really did it like really, I mean, which was really good for my relationship with my folks, because I just
Right.
never knew who they voted for or what they thought about anything, which I think is the way to be with like people who are old, you know, like you can't change their minds, so just chill.
Yeah.
um but she hit me up like last week, and their church is like going through their own like woke thing, like anti racist sort of stuff. And so like my mom called me and she said, Harvey, do you think I raised you to be a racist? And I was like, well, that's a loaded question. Do you think I'm a racist now? And she was like, well, no. And I was like, okay, well, there's your answer. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, but I think her and my dad voted for the GOP most of their lives, and then like they and then they both called me and they're like, we just want you to know that we're going to vote for Joe Biden. And I was like, oh wow, damn, that's crazy. That's crazy that you would vote for the Republican in a race between two yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How are you feeling about this election? Do you think Joe's going to win? Or
I'm not super worried about it. I think don't the polls look pretty good for Joe?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but they look good for Hillary last time too. I don't know why people are relying on that so much.
Well, I think it's because the Pennsylvania poll is pretty. It's like, I don't know. I was looking. Yeah, after we talked about this last time, I sort of looked through it and I was like, yeah, it is one of those things where if they're wrong in like two places, then Trump wins. But the gap is still big enough that it's like, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
I guess. That sounds like a bunch of nerd talk to me. I'm not putting any stock in all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean that's like kind of where I am, because like I've brought up the polls thing too, and people are like, no, the polls are different this time for this and this, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do the research and like look into whether you're right or wrong. I don't really know much about how this works. I just kind of have a gut sense.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just, you know, I've been pretty checked out for a while now, just because you know, to like focus more on like self improvement stuff and like keeping my own life, you know, like going well. I just don't have a lot of time to like read a bunch of news. I mean, which does sound like a smug thing, and people can call me out for that, I guess. But you know, it's just not a thing I have a lot of time to do now. So you know what? I think that Joe could win, or you know, if he doesn't win, I think Trump could win too.
Yeah, that looks kind of like.
And those seem to be the two options. The only thing that I'm like, I mean, I'm not really skeptical of like an outcome where either of them like wins either by like a narrow or like a wide, you know, way. But I am skeptical of the people who say that like if Trump loses, he's going to do a coup.
Yeah, that's
you know that. I mean, you know, I mean, if he did, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
you know,
it would be funny.
Let's just throw that into the mix too. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I think that would shake things up, and like maybe if I've seen people posting about like a potential like constitutional crisis as if we're like due for one, and it's like, yeah, that okay, cool, you know. I mean, I just want to see like what I mean, like I don't see Trump or Joe and see a person who I want to have any say so over like my life. So, you know, when you present me with two pretty bad options, I'm just gonna, you know, be like, okay, well, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I just hope things. I think people are tired. I think that's the big thing. Like, no one wants a bunch of political bullshit to go down. Like, I think they just want somebody to win. They can be mad about it if they don't like it. They can be happy about it if it's their guy. but they don't want like some crazy situation, really. I mean,
Do you think people are tired, or do you think the sort of like massive schizophrenia that we're going through right now is just going to get worse? Because I can see that too. I mean, I would personally like people to kind of chill out a bit, but I can also see things sort of like staying like the same as they are now, where people are just like totally nuts all the time.
I don't know. I do feel like people are tired of the like it. I can see like there being a lot of energy around some sort of issue that isn't specifically like kind of partisan politics, but I think people are really just disillusioned with the whole Democrat Republican sort of fight, and I don't think they want to get involved in anything that's like centered on that, like trying to push one side over the other. I mean, there's the crazies on both sides, right? And they're going to be invested in that no matter what happens. But I think most people are just like, can we just move on with this? Like, you guys are both huge morons. No one's really backing you. If you are trying to start a fight and like take up the news and take up a bunch of attention, I feel like people are going to be like, just shut up. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting, but.
Well, I mean, I did break my own rules because the local DSA here was doing a membership drive. And so I like rejoined DSA just so they could get one more guy. And then I did, and I was like, I have no idea what I would do with this. So I think I just wasted $20,
Mm-hmm.
but at least they got some cash to do some good work or whatever. And I did joke that like maybe I should like show up to stuff and be like, my main issue is trying to get rid of the sexist and homophobic age of consent laws here in DC.
Yeah.
It's just like and just like, well, first of all, we need to get rid of the age of consent. Second, every beach should be a nude beach. Just like because I go on with like weird stuff like that. But I think that would make people like mad at me. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you would hope so. That the worst outcome would be.
Yeah. People are like, "Oh wow, that is such a good idea."
Yeah.
Everyone stands up and applauds, and they're like, "Finally, someone said it."
Yeah. Every single guy in DSA should have an alarmingly younger girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think stuff like, like that, like doesn't really have a big draw for me because I've been married for a long time and I don't need to find a girlfriend with a nose ring, So I just don't see it's like, oh, why would I waste my time with this? I'm already married. She's a Catholic nonetheless, right? Like,
yeah.
But it's good for people to do that. Not to say that they don't do good work or anything, but it just seems like a big time sink, that I could spend on like Legos or whatever.
It's one of those things like if you are already kind of like self-motivated, you have some idea of something you want to do, and that would be a vehicle to kind of help you accomplish that, then great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessarily one of those things that you get involved in and you find some kind of spark and it like revitalizes your life or so. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I have no idea, but that's my sense.
I think that Noam Chomsky basically got it right when he said that you should like find a thing that you're really into and then put like 2 hours a week into that so you don't burn out.
Mm-hmm.
Just like do a small thing, per week on like a long-term thing and instead of because the like issue with a lot of like left stuff that I see is that it quickly becomes a lifestyle sort of thing, and like people wrap up their whole like social and romantic life and their sense of self into it, for like a few years, and then when it goes bad, they like burn out and don't want to do stuff again. So
yeah,
or they just double down and become like kind of kooky, like cultist kind of types, like.
Oh yeah, like the I mean, like Wada was nuts when I was in a Workers World for a bit. There were people who were like I've been in the party for 30 years now, and I'm like, that's sick. You know, like that. That makes so. But it's also like, wait, you've been in here for 30 years, and like, what have you done? You know, it's like, well, we've been to a lot of protests. Okay, that's cool. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
there's something to be said for that on some level, but if you've devoted 30 years of your life to that and that's like your thing and that's what you've accomplished, it's kind of like maybe something else. Maybe try and figure something else out.
Yeah.
I mean, and I do think it's good that there are people who like treat politics as like a full-time thing, you know, but yeah, I mean, because like someone has to do it and I don't want to do it, so if it's someone else, then that's fine. But it seems to make people's brains work weird, you know.
Yeah I always feel like, I don't know, I just think like some people kind of postpone their life a little bit, and like it's like they can't get on with their life until some sort of a political goal is achieved or whatever. Like it's sort of like they just kind of like feel more miserable than they really need to be because politics aren't going their way or something. And so there's like kind of invest themselves in, we got to accomplish this, you know, we can't really be happy until this happens. And then they kind of like convince themselves of that. And I don't know, I feel like people should try to find something like that you can enjoy, like assuming that you're going to lose every political fight in your lifetime. You know, like,
Yeah.
it'd be pretty sad if you just go through life like fighting some political fight and it never happens and it doesn't even push anything forward, and you just never, you know, you just never did anything. You never really lived a life that wasn't kind of just like this miserable millenarian thing. It's kind of, I don't know, just a little sad.
I mean, do you think people do that in a lot of different ways though? Like for some people that may be like, oh, I'm going to go to grad school, or oh, I'm going to get like the best job, or I'm going to make this much money. You know?
Yeah, I think you're right
like,
about that.
And like,
Yeah.
and like that just and like you have this like goal that you may or may not be able to do, and you forget that in like life, right? There are like a million like little things per day that you can do that are like, you know, going to like bring you some like sense of joy, right? You know, like you can go home and you can like clean your place, you can make food, you can like read a book, you know. And if you like, I mean at least for me, like, because I definitely tend to get into that thing where it's like, oh, if like I'm not able to do this and this, then what was my life for, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then if I like, you know, sort of like zoom in on like the like day to day and like take things like one step at a time, be like, well, before I do that, I need to like clean my room. And then before I do that, I need to make some food, and I need to take a shower. I need to walk my dog, you know. And then like if I fill my day with all these things, then I'll be like, okay, well, I did what I had to do today, and I can like put this off, and I'm not like super worried about it. I don't know. I think I talked about this last time, so sorry to the guests who heard that last one, you know. But
I don't know. I don't remember. It sounds fresh to me. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's something. I remember reading this thing that has always stuck in my mind about like the, I think it was either Protestant or like Anglo-American sort of cultural mentality or something, about how when I say we, you know, I know none of us are Protestant here, but like from a culture that's predominantly, you know, influenced by Protestantism and stuff, have a sense of temporality, which is really extreme. It in the sense that it looks at the immediate as very urgent, and then it looks at the extreme long term, and there's no middle ground. So it's like you have to act now so that you can live forever, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no sense of like a kind of moderate, like middle ground where it's like some things sort of can take place in that level. You know, it's always very urgent, and then these huge goals that will be achieved that will last forever. And I think that most obviously you can see that in like all the millenarian cults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Jehovah's Witness, for example, it's like the kind of archetype. And I think like the pursuit of like monetary success and that kind of thing and status, that is an easy analog there in like a secular context that I think a lot of people get hung up on. And then it does seem like kind of political cultism or whatever you want to call it is sort of the like the left version of that, where it's like we achieve like these political goals and you like kind of identify with like these things going on in other places and you don't really know what's going on in those places, so you kind of make it up like this narrative of what's happening there, like it's a victory or it's a loss, and there's like these people that are defending this thing for you or something. And you always have this sense of urgency, but it seems like such an important thing, but it never really goes anywhere. Like it doesn't actually manifest anything.
Yeah. Do you find that Islam is sort of a corrective to that for you? Because I feel the same way with Catholicism for me, that it imbues the sort of like everyday routine stuff with a sense of sacramentality, for lack of a
I absolutely feel that way for me personally.
Because like I know that for you guys, like you have like stuff that you get to do every day, and like it seems to me that like having to think about like the like prayers you have to do each day and then like the rules that you have to follow would like occupy enough of your mind that you don't get too worried about the end of the world,
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, it's not true in every case. I don't think Islam or any religion is like some kind of magical solution to that. There's definitely, pick any like Islamist group, right? Like they're extremely inside of that kind of way of thinking. But personally, I think that it does do that for me. The daily prayers is a really like stabilizing kind of force in my life, and all the little things, parts of the Sunnah, and it's not just rules, but just like trying to emulate the Prophet, thinking about things he said and did, and like, Christians have the "What would Jesus do?" It's a "What would Muhammad do?" kind of a thinking, that really helps. And I was actually, this hadith came up earlier today, actually, in a different context of where the Prophet said that if you hear I'm forgetting what it is. Oh, if you hear the trumpet at the end of time, like there's a trumpet that's supposed to like sound that declares the end of time and the world ending and all that. If you hear that and you have a sapling in your hand that you're about to plant, go ahead and plant that. Right. So like the idea is that time frame isn't your concern. Your concern is like your ongoing action. And I think that's because it's really more about like the state of your soul, and you should be kind of in a good place consistently throughout your life as best you can, making that effort. And that is the like key to happiness. It's not so much about like achieving XYZ things, because in the end it's all going away anyways, right? Like, and I think even if you're like a secular person, like a non-believing person, you can look at climate change or something and kind of substitute that in for the end of the world. I think that's a pretty easy thing to do. Try to just do good to yourself and to the people around you, and kind of live like that. I think that's probably a more satisfying way to live.
Don, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, no, I keep thinking that I think it's true with the whole Catholic thing that it does have that similar, at least for me, like that, like pace yourself kind of thinking, and it actually sort of pushes me on things like politics towards the Chomsky give a few hours a week and that's it kind of thing, like pace yourself, think in terms of the long term instead of just obsessing about like, I do think that the other side of things is that idea that you're in some sort of rolling emergency and that you have to figure out some way, like escape hatch from that solves all the problems or something. And instead just kind of, take that view of that the macro historical stuff is not really as much your issue to worry about. And one thing that I've heard other people say, but like I don't know if you think it's true or not, but is that in the United States, a lot of the Catholic stuff that's out there, it seems to almost mimic the Protestant stuff in a lot of ways, or like is very, it has that tone of emergency and, evangelical sort of anger and stuff. Like I know a lot of the churches now like Trumpified in some ways, and especially with like COVID and stuff. Like, have you noticed that at all in your area, or is that
To be honest, I don't think it's a lot of the church, but I
yeah,
think it's like a vocal enough minority online that it
okay,
seems like a big deal.
sure,
The only because like the churches around here have been very, for the most part, like strict about masks and social
sure,
dis- distancing and like
yeah,
not having as many people in mass as they used to. But the more like traditionalist, like Latin mass guys have been really having a hard time with that,
yeah,
and a lot of them have sort of gotten on the tip. It's like, oh, this is a hoax. Oh, they're trying to shut the church down.
yeah,
Blah
yeah,
blah blah. And so like if like you go to like a Latin mass, you might see like one person wear a mask, but if you go to like a, for lack of a better word, normal mass, then it's going to be all masked up for the most part, and people don't think twice about it.
yeah. Have you
Yeah.
heard much reaction, or like you had said we had talked briefly about this, but like the Pope, they had that
Yeah.
sort of moment this week where they had an interview with him where he said that he supports gay civil unions because he thinks everyone has like a right to a family and stuff. And I saw that like there was some anger on that from different bishops and stuff. But
Yeah,
again, you think
I
that's
think he said that a long time ago, though.
He did too. He did. He said
Yeah,
that
so
actual interview was like a year ago, and then he also said that they should be open to it in like 2014 or something. So it's been in the pipeline, I think, for a bit. But I think the difference is that both the documentary and the sort of liberal Catholic stuff
mhm.
uh, sort of used it as like a big push moment kind of thing. I think to kind of show that like it was like a change in approach or something. So,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah,
I'm not sure what else you would expect them to do with that. It's like
yeah,
if you leave some like food out on the table, and your dog comes up and eats the food, you can't be mad at the dog for that.
sure,
Like
yeah,
that just makes no sense. And um, like what like makes me like sad is to see people just kind of like lose their shit and be like, I am so disappointed in the Pope for causing uh what's the word they like to use a lot, for causing confusion in the flock, you
yeah,
know. And it's like, I don't really, I mean, I don't really see the downside here of like people thinking that like, oh, the Catholic Church might not be so anti-gay. For me, like, that doesn't really have, I mean, that's not super tied up with the
yeah,
yeah. So it just seems like really not a big deal, but it is like something that you can just expect people to freak out about.
Right.
sure,
Yeah, it kind of shows you like some people will kind of hide behind traditional teachings around sexuality and marriage and stuff and kind of use it to justify like things that kind of go beyond the bounds of that are a little bit more about like hatred and bigotry and stuff, and it's not so much about like, well, I just
Yeah,
want to make sure that we're doing what God says and that kind of stuff, and it's more
yeah.
like, I hate these people, they're disgusting, blah blah blah.
Well, I
I've always
think,
thought like
yeah,
civil unions made a lot of sense because it doesn't encroach on religious territory at all. It's
right.
completely like a made up thing in the sense of like it's man made. It doesn't have any kind of religious import at all. So like if you're okay with secular government, you're not waging Catholic jihad or whatever. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, I mean, even like marriage itself as it exists now is so far
Right.
removed from what the Catholic Church says about it. For instance, you can get divorced, right? So I mean, like sort of like right out the gate, that's sort of like a hint
yeah,
that like, like the like marriage that the state will give you and the marriage that you can do in the church are not even uh remotely the same thing. But of course, people find all sorts of reasons to flip out about it. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, like, back to the talk about, like trying to like maintain peace. It's like really striking to me how often the scriptures say, "Hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, calm down, be
Yeah.
chill," and
Sure.
and I think that speaks to a truth that at least in my mind, I think that sort of like being unable to maintain like peace of heart and like peace of mind and letting anxiety rule you is, like a really like crafty way that the devil can use to get into your heart, to
Mhm.
like make you feel like there's no hope, to make you feel like the world's about to end, and to like really get you off your balance, but if you read the good book, there's like so many times that you're told to like don't worry, be at peace, love God, that's like what I think about a lot with this
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, just from like a Muslim perspective, I always think about when people are freaking out about this kind of stuff because there's the same sort of like culture war kind of stuff that goes on. We have like a global economic system that is completely, in violation of the Sharia in so many ways. Like it's
Yeah.
based on interest. There's exploitation of people all over the place. You can barely find any business contract that really upholds like not only the spirit but like the letter of the Sharia. You can't even find clothes that aren't made by slave labor, and in the sense of like the slavery that we're talking about today is not any kind of slavery that would be sanctioned by, there's just so many problems. All the people that complain about like gay marriage or whatever, they're eating factory farmed, meat all the time that's got a halal sticker on it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, I'm sure that's exactly what the Sahaba were doing. People back in the day, like the Sahaba, they were so careful and scrupulous about where their clothing was produced and how it was produced and who did it, and the same thing with their food and everything. And that we just kind of like accept that, well, I can't really do much about that. Maybe we should change it, da 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 da. But there's not this anger around it, when there's like real violation of rights and abuse of the planet and other people and all kinds of stuff. But then when it comes to this stupid issue, people somehow find all this energy to get all mad at everybody and divide the community so much. It's really insane. Like I tend to side with the conservative side of things just because I think that that's what I want to stick to what the Sharia says, right? I don't want to like violate
Right.
that. And I think people on like the kind of progressive side of things, they tend to throw that out the window a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. But
I think it would be funny if you were like, actually, Islam is the same as Marxism, and you should join the DSA, and like you should make that your whole thing.
when I first converted, it was a little bit like that. I was trying to kind of like meld the two. I was kind of coming from the Marxist thing and trying. I mean, there's a lot of things in Islam that sort of attracted me, but
anyway, sorry, I cut you off. What were you saying again?
Oh, I don't know. I was just going on my rant about that kind of stuff.
No, it's a good rant, because I think that especially if you're a convert, right, you're like probably more sensitive than someone who is like born into it about like trying to be like faithful to like what you were taught is, the actual like stuff you're supposed to follow and think.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to claim that for myself, but I think that people do have that sense. There are a lot of people who are like born into a tradition and then kind of like have their own sort of like conversion experience in a sense, like they kind of come back to it in a more serious way. I think it's, I don't think there's a big difference between like someone who actually literally converts and someone who has that kind of like, that sort of experience.
I think that makes sense.
I think this all kind of comes back to the stuff we were talking about earlier about like the sense of urgency that kind of drives people into weird behaviors and stuff. Like the whole thing around like homosexuality and like changing social mores and stuff. It has this sense of like, oh, we got to act now. It's so urgent. The whole, civilization is crumbling kind of thing. And there's no sense of let's figure out something that kind of works instead of freaking out and just trying to find like the easy solution that's just right in our grasp and we can just apply that immediately. You know, people aren't willing to like work through things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like the like thing is like people who are like gay and trans have been here for a long time. They're here today, and they're going to be here tomorrow. They're going to be here for the rest of our lives, you know.
Hmm.
And so for like people trying to, you know, who like try to like cover their ears and pretend that we can go back to this like fictional world where none of this stuff was a quote unquote, you know, like thing that they had to worry about is just like a very weird delusion to me. I think people should chill out for the most part.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily mean like, yeah, let's just do whatever the kind of like status quo sort of like liberal new thing is. You know, you don't necessarily have to jump on board with all that, but there's a difference between that and just like calming down a little bit and just accepting like this is where things are going a little bit. You don't have to like it, but you also don't have to like go crazy about it, you know? Whenever I look at like medieval responses to this kind of stuff, like medieval texts around these kind of things, it's really interesting because they are very like reasonable. You know, they're just trying to like sort through things like, okay, well, how do we deal with this? Like in the case of like intersex people, how do you deal with that in terms of prayer? Because, you know, you're supposed to have men doing one thing, women doing another thing. So they've kind of find like it's a very elegant sort of solution. So like traditionally you would have men praying in front and women praying behind. Nowadays, there's more like of a partition where it's like men in one room, and it tends to be like 90% of the mosque, and then women are in this little closet with all the kids, which is, you know, I'm not really happy about that, but that's what it is. You know, so like the way they figured out with intersex is they put them in the middle. So not only does it not make, like not in their own line, but they can kind of, they're at the front of the women's lines or at the back of the men's line, whichever they feel more comfortable with. And which, you know, they kind of pick one way to dress, right? Like there's a very specific way. It's pretty clear when it comes to Muslims if someone's a man or a woman based on their dress, you know? So like they pick one and then that's them in the line, and it kind of like, it doesn't draw attention to it. It doesn't make a big deal about it. I don't know. You know, I'm not intersex, so maybe it's not my place to say, but to me, that looks like a pretty even-handed kind of like, well, this isn't a big deal. It's just something that happens. We got to figure some way to deal with this. It's a very minority sort of a case. And, you know, LGBT stuff, it's more prevalent than something like that, but it is still kind of like a minority situation. So you can kind of accept that, like, we have like a default sort of thing that's like the norm, like where it's just like someone is like a straight, like cis person, you know, everything is sort of like as you would assume things to be. And that's what the basic framework is set up around. But there are these edge cases or like minority situations, and you just find something that works, and you don't have to like freak out about it. Like, be in dialogue with them. You don't have to, you know, you have your non-negotiables, like we got this and this and this, but okay, they want, like the Pope was talking about, a right to a family. I think that's a very good point to raise. There's nothing in either religion that says they don't have a right to a family. Like, so if that's something they want, let them have that in a way that makes sense and that isn't violating like a direct kind of piece of law or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think again that just like, you know, starting from the point of like, you know, like, I mean, whether or not you have an issue with it, like these are people who exist and they are loved by God, you know, and they shouldn't be driven away, you know. So like you like start from that, and then you go from there, as opposed to like being worried. It's like, but I have to be a Republican too, you know.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like even if you consider it like a sin and an abomination and all that kind of stuff, the scriptures talk about all kinds of things that people do all the time, and you never bat an eye at that kind of stuff. People lie, they cheat, you know, they do all this kind of stuff, and you don't think twice about it. But for some reason, this thing gets you so incensed. It's just crazy, you know?
Yeah. You guys said you had some questions, right? That you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, actually. So there was one question I saw in here that I wanted to get into, but we kind of have been talking about this the whole episode. It's sort of funny. So I don't know. We'll just dive into this one. So it says, everything y'all say is about how it's gay to care about the world or try to change anything. 100% convinced you're cops.
Yes,
So,
yes. I mean, I am the closest thing to a cop you've had on the show, and
well,
so
I mean, technically I'm not a cop. I'm a chief of police, so that kind of puts me in a
right,
management position. But yeah, sure.
right. I mean, so this is the thing. Like, yes, it is gay to care about the world and try to change stuff, but is being gay bad? That's what's open for discussion here, right? So now it's in your hands.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, both Tom and I mentioned this earlier to ourselves, but like, the actual name of the podcast is "You Can't Win." So, I mean, it's like getting too riled up about the fact that we're not telling you to max out your credit card to donate to DSA or something. Like, it's not like that's not really the goal of what we're talking about. It's more kind of working through things pretty slowly and just chatting about stuff and having fun. And I don't know. So, but it is good that like, I feel like that was probably like a crossover person from someone that hates Chapo and listens to it though, and then and then
That's a lot
was
of
like,
people.
yeah, and then they heard me on there, and then they go, okay, I got to check out this guy's podcast, and then they listen to it for a while, and then they're like, they told me that giving blood every few months so that I can donate the money to abolish the police or whatever is not 100% a good idea. So I'm gonna have to fire off a question to them, insulting them. So yeah.
Well, I mean, did they insult us? I don't know. They said we're cops. I think that's a noble profession. That's a
sure, yeah,
high-minded thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny. It came also off the heels of like a episode. We called it something like "We're not voting for Biden" or something like that. So
Yeah.
I wonder if this person's kind of like real, in that kind of like this is the most important election kind of frenzy and stuff. You could feel that way. I just don't, and that's know what I mean. Like I don't think it's bad if someone takes this stuff seriously. Good. Maybe you're a better person than me. I don't know. I just feel the way I feel. It's my podcast, so I'm going to say what I think. You know what I mean? That's about it.
Sure.
I mean, I voted for Jesse Ventura, and my wife voted for Marianne, the Orb Queen, and
nice.
we feel very
cool.
and we feel very good about our votes because we
sure.
both thought of like who's like the most based person we can think of, and then just wrote them in. So
I guess this might give away part of your geography, so we can always delete it. But like, do your 0 vote count?
Oh, and no, I don't care if people know where I live because if they look me up on Twitter, they'll know. In Washington D.C., the answer is like federally, of course, no. Presidentially, no, because we go like strong D every time. There are some like city council races where I guess our votes are more meaningful, but what I did for those was I just called someone who was in the DSA and I had them walk me through who to vote for. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I just didn't really think about it that much.
Yeah.
And then we also had a initiative to make like enforcement about like psychedelic mushrooms and stuff like that, to like stop prosecution on that. And so I voted yes for that. So hopefully I can get some mushrooms soon.
That'd be cool. Have you ever done those before?
Yeah. They're fun. The issue with like mushrooms is that the last like 2 times I've done that, I've like thrown up a lot. So and like when you're like tripping and then you throw up and it's like a rainbow coming out of your mouth.
You're right.
And like it's like, oh, this is strange.
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't feel bad as much when if you actually started to like trip by the time that happens. It's weird. I think it gets worse the more you do it too. Like it doesn't get better.
No, the last time I did a bunch of them, I was spinning records at a dive bar, and like during the gig, I was just like, I'm gonna have a mushroom. Oh, no, and just went for it. And so by the end of it, I was like going hard, and then this guy like punched me in the chest really hard, because I think he thought that his girl was trying to dance with me, but I was just kind of in like, the I was just on a different planet by then.
Yeah, had like a
And,
shit-eating grin when
right.
he's like, "Are you talking to my girl?" And you're just like grinning at him.
Yeah, I'm like, brother, who are you? You know. And so yeah, he punched me hard, and so I like threw up really bad, and then I went home and I threw up more, and my wife was like, "Did you learn your lesson?" And I was like, "Yeah, I should be more careful about doing mushrooms." And she was like, "You don't think the lesson is not doing them?" And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, no, I think I can fix this the next time. And then I watched the Matrix, and I was like, wow, this makes so much sense to me now. So,
Yeah.
I had a classic like sort of Joe Rogan sort of like, man, I'm a dumb guy, but I still think about the world, you know, type night.
That's
Mhm.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
mushrooms are. I think they were my favorite hallucinogen when I was into that kind of stuff. They're just like
yeah.
fun. They make you feel like a kid, you know?
I mean, it's like one of those things where like I think about doing it or like LSD, but I realize that I have like stuff to do that day, and so it's like, oh, I don't have time, you know, and
Yeah.
so it just kind of like pushes that on for like weeks and weeks, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I just don't have a whole day to set aside to like be stupid, you know.
It's kind of like
I don't
2 days
know.
too. I don't know. For me, it was always like the day after is just kind of shot. Your
Oh yeah,
brain
yeah,
just
yeah,
doesn't quite work. You're like operating on like 10% brain power.
yeah. It's just all the way fried for me most of the time, but
Yeah.
the like few days after that feel nice.
Hmm.
You know, but it's still like it's like not a question of like, do I think it's like a good or bad thing to do, or is it even fun to do or not. It's just that I don't have time anymore, so
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
well.
I feel
Mm,
totally satisfied with my life without having any kind of thing like that in it anymore. It just seems like a complete like a side move at best and a negative at worst.
yeah,
You know, and obviously that can be a
yeah,
very negative thing. So yeah,
yeah.
I guess
the,
you know the typical story is people grow out of it and stuff. I guess that happened to me. You know.
the last time I did acid I watched bar sorry, you can cut this part out because I'm gonna stammer a lot.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's endearing to be honest.
I know. The last time I did acid, I watched Barbershop, which was the funniest movie of
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
time. I mean, like both like when I was a teen, and then and then when I watched it like on acid, like 12 years later, you know.
Yeah.
And because like there's the white guy who works there who's just like totally dumb, but then at the end of the movie it's like, oh, he cuts hair the best. Damn, that's so cool. And just like that like plot twist made me just laugh so hard. I was like, what a genius movie this is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, sorry, what's the next question?
Let's see. Do you guys like Glenn Beck?
Do they? That's the Glenn Beck? He's the American.
Yeah, he was like a big deal back in the day, right? He was like the big
Yeah.
rabble rouser on the right. And doesn't that seem so quaint?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I know.
I guess he's
like
kind of had strange like flips and turns in his trajectory. I haven't really been paying attention to him.
Wasn't he one of the first like mainstream guys on Fox to take like the conspiratorial turn?
Yeah.
I think
And
so,
like,
yeah.
and like people thought that was so wild back in the day when he had like a blackboard that was like Obama, arrow, Acorn, arrow,
Mhm.
Karl Marx, arrow,
Yeah.
Trotsky, arrow, Saul Alinsky. You know, like people
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that's like crazy. You know, but no,
Yeah.
my when I was growing up, my dad listened to a lot of like right wing talk stuff. So we got a lot of Rush Limbaugh, who I think is going to die soon. So rest in peace to him. Best to ever do it, goat, king. You know.
Mhm.
But and then we listened to Michael Savage, who was always the most apocalyptic of them.
Right.
You know, but like probably the most funny. But Glenn Beck was on the air too, and I always thought that he was a very talented broadcaster, but like very cornball, you know.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I mean, that's like kind of how I think of those guys, because the like politics, of course, are bad. So then you have to think about like how they do it, and Glenn Beck has had so many weird like twists and turns that it's hard to like, actually care about him now.
Yeah, I remember there was like that picture of him with Samantha Bee being like, "We got to quash this beef" kind of thing, and being like, we're on the same side together. And I don't know. I think she doesn't come out looking that good after that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Just like I don't know. It's funny how that happens sometimes in American, or like whatever. People are like, there's actually this show in Canada where I don't know if they have one in the States, but like it's called like something like Political First Date or something. I don't know. They take two politicians from like different traditions and make them like hang out for a day, and you can just imagine it's not no, it's not well thought out, but like it's funny because you get all these people that are like, I don't know, it's very much like makes me feel like ruling class is all one blob kind of thing,
Right.
because it's all like people that are like in their everyday life, or like that person's trying to make it so that the planet bakes from climate change or something, and then they hang out like taking bike rides together, and you're like, okay, well, I don't know.
Yeah. You're like, why are all these first dates pizza? Why do they always go to this pizza place?
yeah.
What if we had the Great British Baking Show, but it was baking the entire country of Britain with climate change? I think that would rule.
Yeah, that would be great. I saw this thing, I think it was on YouTube or Reddit where I saw it. It was an ad that's going on, like a political ad in Utah, and it's a Republican and the Democrat, like it's the two candidates for, I don't know, whatever it is, governor or something. And it's like a joint ad for the two of them. And so they both kind of take turns speaking, and one of them is like, I'm so-and-so, I'm the Democratic candidate for the state of Utah. And then the Republican's like, and I'm so-and-so, and I'm the Republican. And we may disagree on things, but we can respectfully agree to unite for the right, for the American people, blah, 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 blah. And that seems so much more dystopian than any kind of like, crazy Trump Biden kind of stuff. These like just soulless like suits being like, we are both the same. We were both the ruling class. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
Imagine that you're like a person who watches that ad though, and you're like, yes, this is exactly more of what we need. How much of a dum-dum would you have to be to like really fall for that shit?
Yeah, I saw it. Now I'm remembering. I did see it on Reddit, and that's what all the comments were. It's like, oh, finally. It was on the Made Me Smile subreddit.
Good. Yeah.
That subreddit, sometimes they have like cute little animals and stuff, so that's why I have it subscribed. But I swear like 70% of it is like people's before and after with like their transitional kind of thing. It's like, okay, that I don't need. That's not what I sub for. That's like 70% of the content in the subreddit, and then they throw this like shitty ad up there. I don't know. I'm about ready to unsubscribe from that. I think talk myself into it here.
I think the average IQ of Reddit is about 100 flat. Like it's just, which is like why it's a fun site to read. And like, I like to read it, and I like to listen to Rogan too, just so I can have like an idea of what like dumb guys are going to talk to me about the next week. So it's like, oh, I'm prepared now for this. But I don't know.
Yeah, and you got to get your public freakouts in there,
Yeah.
Public freakouts are great, even though it's like, even though most of them are like, I left out the 20 minutes where I like bullied the shit out of this person, into like flipping out on me.
You watch enough of those, and you can kind of fill in the blanks. You kind of can you just get a sense of what was going on in the situation. You kind of have this like sixth sense for like, oh, okay, the guy filming this is actually the asshole here.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I was going to suggest that people listen to You Can't Win to figure out what dumb guys will be saying for the next week. I don't know. So that would be, I don't know. That's our.
No, I mean, like, people should listen to this one. I think I'm the closest to like a Joe Rogan level IQ that you guys have had on the podcast. So if people want to hear what a dumb guy thinks about that stuff, this is the perfect one to tune into, you know.
Well, like I was saying, your last episode was a fan favorite, so.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, and I think this was a fun one too. I hope people like it, even though it didn't have as many funny tales and a lot of talk about God and gay people and stuff. So I hope people are able to make it through that. But yeah, I mean, like someone got mad at me from like real life for like the last one I was on, because I think I like made a joke where like someone was getting mad at me at a surf, and I joked about telling them that they're being gay, and someone sent me a message. They're like, "I can't believe you're a homophobe." And I was like, "Okay, well, you know, it's fine, dude."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Let's see. Let me take a look at these questions here. Let's pick some more. My favorite pedophile is Roman Polanski. Who is your favorite? I know Don's favorite is Woody Allen.
Yeah, mine is Woody Allen, I would say. I don't know. I will still probably cry when he dies. I think that like of if I cry like at a celebrity, it'd probably be him or something, because I really like his movies, even though he's being accused of certain personal faults. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, I guess being a Catholic is sort of like muscle memory for you now at this point.
Yeah,
kind of like, well, he's a pedophile, but yeah, we know. I've been through this before.
Sure, yeah.
Trying to think for myself. I do like Roman Polanski's movies a lot. I don't have a very positive impression of him, even like setting aside the pedophilia. Like, I still think, like, personally, he seems like an asshole, even that aside.
Yeah.
But the movies are good. I will say, I'm just thinking about the Epstein flight logs and the ones that kind of hit the most. Chris Tucker kind of hits hard a little bit. I got to assume every British celebrity is a pedophile, so I got to throw Bob Mortimer in there. You guys know him?
No, I don't.
No.
He's very funny. I've been watching these UK panel shows. What's it called? Would I Lie to You? And Taskmaster and stuff like that. And they're a lot of fun. You know, they're kind of a little bit more like an old school game show kind of thing that we don't really do in the States anymore. But Bob Mortimer is by far the funniest person on those things. Him and James Acaster, those are probably my two favorites.
I think my answer is all of Europe.
Yeah. Okay.
It's my favorite pedophile. So shout out to Europe.
Yeah.
Well, for the Roman Polanski person, I would have you either of you seen the movie Ghost Rider?
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very bad. I don't know. So the plot of the movie is that Pierce Brosnan plays like a Tony Blair clone, and over the course of the movie, it comes out that, like, you know, to spoil it, is he has been cultivated by the CIA his entire life, and it ends kind of in a dumb way. And he plays like, you know, like Prime Minister, obviously, and stuff. And the whole, it's funny because like the whole shocking truth that's like revealed in it, other than that, is that like he was involved in like torture stuff, like in terms of like allowing it at like black sites. And this was in 2010. So I guess so. Like it's like, I don't know. It's kind of funny because it's like a Roman Polanski movie, and it's like it's about like real life, but like real life is you know what I mean, kind of like it's just ripped from the headlines kind of stuff. But real life is worse. You know, it's like they made this movie about like they're like, oh, you know, it's very, very grim, like and then a guy gets killed for or whatever, like, you know, like they shut up this guy for finding out that the CIA actually controls the UK or something. It's like, yeah, but you can't make it like worse, like real life, you know. I don't know, just very, very frustrating.
Right. Yeah,
but it's like Roman Polanski, so it's like, you know, you expect it to be really good, and then it was just I don't know, pretty sad.
I actually don't think I've seen that many Polanski movies. Now that I think about it, I think it's just Rosemary's Baby and maybe one other movie.
Yeah.
But I really liked Rosemary's Baby. I was just like from a, I'm not like a big movie guy or anything, but I just enjoyed it, and I don't like horror especially either. But it's just kind of like well made, kind of a cool movie.
I mean, he's like one of those guys where if I see he directed the movie, there's like a twinge in the back of my brain that's like, maybe I'll save this for tomorrow, and so they all just get like put off for a long time. It's like I could watch a movie by not a pedophile,
Yeah.
Like,
well, good luck.
Yeah, I know, right?
I've found it hard to watch any of Woody Allen's new stuff over the last 5 or 6 years, especially because it's gotten so formulaic in a lot of ways that like it's like, I don't know, it's painful to, I don't know, but I do respect that like he still gets paychecks all the time. That's kind of a interesting thing. Like Amazon, really, or Amazon and Netflix and stuff, I guess, really backing him up. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the most recent thing of his I saw was Midnight in Paris, which was funny because I always like movies where the plot is like, the guy's wife is like a huge like bitch or shrew, and so he gets to find a fun way to cheat on her. Yeah, basically, I think that's a fun plot for a movie to have. So.
Speaking of movies, this question, it's more of a statement. It says, Tom should watch the movie Boss N-Word. I just don't like to watch my own work again after I've finished it. Kind of like to set that beside me. That was actually the movie I created for the CIA that got me in, kind of, made that as like a training movie, and he really liked it and promoted me afterwards. So it's good.
Have
good
you
times.
heard the theme song for that one?
No, I haven't.
You should make it the outro tune to this show.
Well, we're off the copyright kind of stuff now. We got our own licensed music now. But if you are watching at home, just imagine the song as the outro.
Well, no, it's a great like it's like a funky blaxploitation tune where it's like he's a boss N-word, and it's like it's so cool.
That's fun. All right, someone here in all caps says they are behind it all. Couldn't agree more with you, sir. You're right.
Yep. They took everything from us.
What is your favorite writing system, man? Not really. Do they mean
like
or
Cyrillic or like
cuneiform?
Yeah, cuneiform.
I don't know. That's all it says. I guess that's what that means.
I don't know. I like Roman letters. I'm sticking with my own culture on this one.
Yeah, I know it's kind of obvious, but I do have a soft spot for like Arabic calligraphy, especially like the Ottoman style, where they really developed it, and it's kind of interesting.
It's very beautiful. Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's interesting. I watched this documentary about the tradition of that in the Ottoman Empire, and it was like it wasn't just like a artistic thing. It really had this. It was almost like a Sufi lodge thing of its own. Like it was this spiritual pursuit, and there was like a whole system of apprenticeship that would last through your life, and you were kind of like raised to be a calligraphist or whatever the word is. And it was really interesting. Like they would have the pens that they would use and all this kind of stuff would be made from like a special wood. And so like if you had a certain mentor, like it might be from a certain plant, like the same one that he used and stuff. And like they did certain things with like I think when they were buried with that in some way. I don't remember all the specifics. It was very interesting just to kind of see how that was like a complete. It wasn't just like a job. You know what I mean? Like it was their whole life. It meant a lot more than just the art itself. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's still alive to some extent in Turkey. Actually, there's still that thing kind of going on.
Yeah, I guess that's true in like other parts of the world too, like Japan or something. There's like that whole calligraphy, like in tea ceremony and all that kind of stuff. Like you can be an expert at it. I don't know.
Yeah, that was going to be my other answer to kind of like after the obvious like Ottoman thing was to go with like Japan and Korea. If we're just talking about alphabets, I think the Korean alphabet is the coolest.
Oh, really? You like the simplified symbols thing?
It's very aesthetically pleasing to me. It's very clear. It's easy to read, like when it's small and when it's big. Like it's a very well designed thing. I think it was pretty recently designed, and most things like that I don't think are really all that great. But the Korean thing gets a thumbs up for me.
I like the ovals and I like the lines, and I like when they make cool shapes. So one day I'll learn how to read it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do they use the same thing in North Korea? I don't know.
Yeah.
They do? That's interesting.
So.
I guess it predates
Hangul or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I suppose it predates the war.
I'm not sure how it works. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know when the switchover was. I feel like Japan probably didn't support it or something. I don't know. Like, so I don't know the relationship there, right? Because it would have been before the war, it would have been Japan for a long time. So I don't know.
Right, and then Japan occupied them and really tried to create like a colonial sort of thing. So I would imagine they would try to destroy that as much as they could. And then right after that, you have the war. So yeah, that's an interesting timeline. I wonder what happened. If it is post-war, like, and it is some kind of like joint effort by North and South Korea, that's pretty cool. Like that's good on them.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do one more here. Okay, how about this one? Dawn, elaborate more on your views on the inevitability of the legalization of public nudity. I think we talked about this a few episodes ago.
No, it's because I had a tweet about it, I think. But like, I don't know. I feel like there's certain things like that where I can imagine there being like people. I don't know. I see a lot of like Instagram posts and stuff where it's like people explaining like the 5 reasons why you have to support this or that kind of thing, right? Or like all the different, and they kind of, and I always imagine like things that haven't really become public causes yet, but could be one day. And I think that like public nudity could be one where it's like people will just make like the very obvious things that you always think of with it kind of thing. Like how can it be illegal to just be yourself and all that kind of stuff? Yeah. I like to think of all like the memes about that and like all the people being like, it becoming at first almost like a polyamory kind of thing where it's like, how can you only be with one person or whatever? But then it becomes like a public thing where people start like, you know, being like the Rosa Parks of it and sitting down nude on the bus and stuff and stuff. I don't know, like all the like, you know, and then, you know, people are trying to argue in front of the Supreme Court nude and stuff. And yeah, like, I don't know. I think it would be a funny thing. And it's one of those things too. I like the example because you can't really get too angry at it. I mean, you can at some level, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's not like if it did get fully legalized one day or something, it's like, okay, well, whatever. I don't know. It's not, might be mildly annoying, but like, who cares kind of thing. But anyways, so yeah.
Well, I mean, even if it was legal, only people who are weird would do it. So
yeah,
it would still stay weird. But I think that it might have the like added benefit of destroying OnlyFans forever.
I don't know.
It's like, so maybe,
man, you just changed my position on this 100%.
maybe that can be the end to it.
No.
I don't know. Well, I've thought maybe I should start one, but it's for like posts that I can't make on Twitter or like ones that I make and then have to delete right, you know, like within like a few minutes because folks start to get mad at me. So
you just weekly hold up a little card of the N-word. It's just that every week.
yeah, you know, and for $5 a month, you know, you can read all of my worst tweets that don't make it to light, you know.
What country do you guys think that this would happen in first, the legalized nudity thing?
France.
I think
exactly. Yep, France. I was gonna say keep your eye on France.
I think it would be like personally like Denmark or like Germany. It might actually already be legal in Germany or something. You know, like if we looked it up,
Yeah.
it'd probably be like some country where it like actually is legal, and it's like. But then, yeah, I don't know.
I think in Germany it's fine in nightclubs.
Yeah.
From like what I've heard from people who go to club there, they'd be like, "Yeah, this like guy was just naked and it was so cool and chill." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds cool."
It's weird that you can have strip clubs and that's not considered like indecent exposure, just from like a really autistic kind of like legal perspective. Like they just make up a rule. It's like, well, except in strip clubs because that's what you're there for. You know, it's kind of, I don't know. That's weird to me. There's a lot of laws like that. Like, I don't know, the old classic, like, if you pay for sex, it's a crime, but if you film it, it's legal because it's pornography then or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think Doug Stanhope had a thing where he was talking about where, I think it was Florida or somewhere. There's some place in the United States where they only have bikini bars and instead of strip clubs. And that sounded like additionally sad to me. I don't know.
Right.
Or like going to a strip club, but not really. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like...
I think there's some where it's like the alcohol changes it. So it's like you can have the nudity, but no alcohol, or you can have... It's just kind of like that, like a bikini sort of thing.
Yeah.
And alcohol. And so there's like different... It's a really weird world to me. I've never been in any kind of establishment like that, so I don't know. I don't understand the appeal, to be honest.
I've only been in them to serve people, and I felt like I should have walked in with like, you know, the things that the horses wear, so like they can't see from side to side. I felt that's like what I should have had, but it was very funny to walk up to someone. It's like, hey, stripper, where's your boss at? I need to talk to him.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, baby, and I'm like, no, that's, come on, stop.
Yeah.
My boss used to try to get me to go to those with him, and I was like, well, I wouldn't go to them in the first place, but like especially so since you're my boss.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Seems I never liked my friends even asking me to go to them. I was always kind of like, I don't get it.
They seem
guys.
boring. Yeah.
There's a Brent Weinberg joke. I don't know if you guys know that stand-up guy, Brent Weinberg, but he does a joke where he's like, he's talking about how he doesn't understand this either. And he's like, hey, sir, would you like to have a boner? Can I purchase a boner for you? You know, it's just kind of like this weird situation where it's like you're all sitting around just getting a boner together. I don't know. Yeah, weird stuff. Okay, well, I guess we can leave it on that awkward note. Thanks for coming on.
What's more fun than getting hard with your friends? That's what we've been doing all night here on You Can't Win.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've all been at least half chubbed the whole time. So.
And I know you have 2 listeners, at least male listeners.
All right, guys. Again, thank you so much for having me back on the pod. It was a pleasure, for real.
Oh, thanks. No, yeah, thank you for coming on. It's fun to chat. So,
yeah, it's always a joy, and stay safe out there, man, while you're serving papers.
Thanks, guys, and y'all have fun, okay?
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, so if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like a second episode every week, you can subscribe to our Patreon, and for $5 you will have that, as well as as access to our Discord, where you can talk to us in our community. If you want to send in a question, you can do that by checking out the Twitter podcast account, and you'll see a link to the Curious Cat there, which is pinned, and you can send in an anonymous question. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.